This week's episode is sponsored by the M2Y Conference. Ministering to youth in today's world is really challenging. Here at OKS Youth Ministry, one of the best ways that we found to make it easier is to know that there are others in the trenches with you. Join us at the M2Y Conference at Heritage Christian University, November 7th through 10th, to learn from others who are doing great things for youth ministry. And hey, please stop by our vendor booth and say hi.
Welcome into the OKS Youth Ministry Podcast, where three of the OKS Youth Ministers talk about youth ministry. I'm Michael Deese, and I'm joined by Jeremy Crow and Hunter Puckett. What's up, fellas?
Man, I'm just ready to talk about some post-trip analysis. I love analyzing how it went.
It was a great trip overall. I really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to break it down.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be exciting. I think this is very important. I think it's something that we should always do after every trip that we go on. We should just go over how the trip went, what we did, what we accomplished, and everything. And you guys get to listen to this conversation live. So
yeah, we really haven't sat down together and talked about this until this moment.
We kind of saved it for this moment.
Yeah, I think it really matters in terms of preparation for future things. It really matters that we take a step back and we self-evaluate, what we're doing and why we're doing it. So
yeah, absolutely.
And it's important too that it wasn't just our own youth groups that went, but it was all of us together in an area-wide retreat, which was a really cool idea. And we are missing Sam from Beltline today, but he couldn't make it. He was on a field trip today.
Yeah, his son had a field trip that he said he just found out about.
Well, and we talked about in the first episode or second episode, family takes priority.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. He made the right choice for sure. Okay, so we're going to start off about this post-trip analysis. What was the something that went really, really well at this retreat?
So I will talk for Sam since he's not here. This is one thing that Sam and I talked about during the weekend. And having a combined fall retreat with all of our groups together, it's 4 different youth groups. There's always somebody to cover. And what I mean by that is like you've got 3 other guys that do this kind of job all the time that know, what youth ministry looks like, and they can cover when you forget something or when you overlook something or when something doesn't work well and you need somebody to go handle a situation. It's just kind of cool to know that you've got that backup.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Normally it's where you would be like relying on parents and volunteers that are coming in late or something. But this time, it was just like we had 4 churches there and we were all acting together and all working together. And but yeah, I agree. There was something that we all kind of forgot. I think it was drinks. Did we all we just all forgot to get drinks?
Well,
and so that was part of the trip. That things that didn't go well, I guess, but
sure,
we made it. We made it work. I don't know how it got there.
Sam,
but I
think
know
Sam sent a text and he was like, "Hey guys, if anyone can get drinks," I had one of the kids I trusted in my youth group. I gave him the church card. Said, "Hey, run to Walmart, get X amount of drinks, and just bring them with you."
Yeah,
and he was able to take care of it.
So it was you. You saved the day.
I wouldn't say that, but
I'm going to shoot you straight. I had no idea how we got more drinks, but
I didn't either. But I drank them, and they were good.
Way to go, Hunter.
I think one of the things that went really, really well was it seemed like everybody was prepared for the lessons and the singing. I thought that was really well done. We had PowerPoint slides. Everybody knew what their role was, and it felt very organized and it flowed really, really well. Every time that we all gathered together, having 4 different groups there all at the same time can get a little bit crazy, but it wasn't like that. Everything was just so well organized, not chaotic. So
yeah, it's something I really enjoyed. We had a couple of our students that led singing 2 or 3 different times during the weekend.
Oh yeah.
During the large devotional sessions, and man, those guys they killed it.
They're so talented too.
Yeah.
Well, and I like this too. And Jeremy pointed out the first session. Sam was speaking at the first session, and it's cool because each of us spoke one session. So it's not the youth group listening to you all weekend. They also listen to you every Sunday and Wednesday. But instead, they get to hear somebody different every single time. And they're only having to listen for Flint. They're only having to listen to me one time that weekend.
Yeah. So, well, Hunter, what's something that went really well that you noticed this past weekend?
The thing that stood out to me the most were the breakout groups. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I thought it was very unique, and what was cool about that is we didn't use the same group every single time. We'd go by age, we'd go by youth group, we'd go by just whatever it might be, and I felt like that was very beneficial. We're really big into intermingling the groups, making sure that they're all getting along first of all, but getting to hear other things, and for the kids in my youth group to see the kids in Jeremy's youth group, they're going through the same issues, and just kind of reassuring them that they're not alone. That school is tough, life is tough, being a Christian is tough at times, and they're there to do the same thing, and they're there to back each other up.
Well, I know, just to kind of go off that, when I was starting at Freed Hardeman as a freshman, I didn't think I knew anyone there. And so, like, when I got there, I was like, dude, I'm just going to try to make some friends quick and see what I can do. And then I got there, and I saw people from all of the surrounding churches that I grew up around. I was like, oh, I know this person. And then, by the end of the day, I was like, oh, these are I'm just here with a bunch of my friends already. And so that also kind of plays into it. And it's not just for Freed Hardeman. I mean, that could apply to whatever university you go to. You're going to see people that you recognize from different church events and different church things that we've done. So
I think one of the things that I do see is that went really well. I think our teenagers, because we go to camp together, because we've done things like work camp together, we do area-wide devotionals together, we've done some service projects together, they have some good relationships and rapport. We've done a lot of things like that. Something I thought that was really good this weekend is I saw a lot of our parents and adult volunteers hanging out together, playing cards together, sitting talking together after dinner, worshiping together, and they seemed so meshed well together, and I was very thankful. Man, another thing that just was fantastic, Beltlines people really did an incredible job with our food.
Oh yeah,
we ate like kings. One of the things we'll talk about later in this episode is what things make a retreat successful. But man, when people eat good, they feel like they had a good weekend.
Oh yeah,
when it's not camp food, it was real food.
Yeah. It was real food. I mean, dude, that fettuccine Alfredo stuff was unbelievable. I mean, they had like cracked red pepper. I mean, it was like what are y'all doing?
Chocolate
what kind
gravy
of
with the biscuits.
I mean, what is going on? It was so good. Was there anything that seemed a little chaotic and disorganized at any point?
I will take the blame here for just a second. So Jennifer, who works with Sam over at Beltline, Jennifer Watson, she handled our Love Line bags. And so she and I communicated. I bought a bunch of stuff, sent it to her, and she managed all that. If you don't know what love lines are, what we do, or some people call them warm fuzzies, whatever you want to say, it's where kids can write notes to each other, encouragement, and we put little trinkets and things, and we put Bible verses in their bag all weekend. So I totally forgot to bring the pens for Jennifer. So the entire idea of I just left them at Coleman. I said, don't worry about pens. We've got a ton of pens. I'll bring those. She brought everything else, and it was so organized and so perfectly done. And
she had little baggies with verses on each thing. Yeah, that was so good.
Shout out to Jennifer. Well done.
She did a really great job.
The small hands were a big hit too.
Oh yeah, the tiny hands.
Yeah, that was great. Anything that you noticed that was kind of chaotic or a little disorganized?
I wouldn't really say chaotic. I'd say it was different. Not doing an area-wide retreat before, than going to this of usually just having your youth group at a retreat. And then all of a sudden you have 80 kids at a retreat. And for me, that seemed chaotic in the beginning. And then it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, well, there's 4 of us here to make sure this runs smoothly.
That's kind of what I was going to say. When we first got there and people just started pulling in and we were just like, okay, now go find a cabin. And everybody's like just going all over. I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening? What are we going to do? And then again, it goes back to once the Devo time happened, it seemed like everything just flowed smoothly after that.
Yeah, I'll say that for my perspective of retreats, Friday night is always just a little bit chaotic until the first lesson, until you get everybody together and you get to make announcements and things. And part of that is we could do a better job on the front end communicating, what to expect as soon as we arrive. But a lot of times you don't know when everyone's arriving. Everyone's getting there at different times. With us, with 4 different groups, I was calling these guys and saying, hey, how far are you out? And then I looked, and Hunter was literally right in front of me on the road. So I realized I wasn't paying attention to where he was, I guess. But didn't see you in your huge bus. So
I beat everybody there.
You did. Yeah. Well, now one of the things that I will say, I had a couple of students from Coleman that got there early and they were asking me, you know, where do you want us to go?
yeah,
What cabin?
yeah.
And I said, hey, here's the cabins, split them out this way. And they went and stuck, I think, a sign on each cabin that said junior high girls here, high school girls here, junior high boys. And I thought that was helpful and it was cool, you know, to have that kind of structured.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, like I said, I was the first one there, like with my group, and they already had everything labeled. So I just told my kids, get your stuff and go move in, you know. And that was pretty cool.
It was just so smooth and just our kids are awesome.
They are.
And I think too, they already know kind of what we expect from what Jeremy
yeah.
said. We're at camp. We're at area wide stuff. We do work camp. They're used to being around us, and they're used to knowing how we kind of run things. So it's always fun, and they have a lot of fun. They play. They all get along. But when we do get to a Bible time or a serious time, they stop and they do take it serious, and that's really neat.
One of the things I think that was different on this retreat than when you guys do your own retreats is we're carrying a shared budget, and by that, I was the person that kind of took the lead on that. I think just because I was the person that booked the venue, and so that kind of I'm the one communicating with Indian Creek Youth Camp.
Shout out to ICYC.
Yeah, thanks, Bert. So we were responsible for booking that and paying lodging and all that. And what's awesome about Indian Creek is he waits until the end of your retreat and sends you a bill for how many people you actually had show up, which is nice to not pay for people that didn't come. But we handled the lodging side of things. Hartzell took care of the shirt order and things that we bought there. We bought our shirts from Sunday Cool, and then Beltline took care of the food for the weekend. But what's challenging in that is all of those budgets were coming from different places, and so we all kind of had to figure out what. Sorry, Hunter just handed me the check that he owes me for the retreat. Thanks, Hunter. So we all are kind of managing that. So this week I had to kind of figure out, okay, who spent what, what's still owed, how many did you have go, and had to get all that sorted out. And that's hard to do with 4 different budgets, right? So that was something that was a little different this weekend.
I did feel like it was organized, though. I mean, you did a great job. You kind of texted us how much we owe and what all yours, and that worked out really good. So this is kind of where I kind of changed the venue and everything. I want to ask you all a question. What do you think was the most impactful moment of the weekend? Okay, the thing that made this weekend stand out compared to all the other retreats and things. What was the most impactful thing? What do you think, Hunter?
I'm not going to say most impactful. The thing that impressed me the most were the Craft Hut singing at night.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if y'all noticed this. The kids went and did that.
And
we were still kind of doing things. All the youth ministers were still kind of cleaning stuff up and getting ready for the next event and things like that. And then all of a sudden you walk outside and all the kids are sitting in the Craft Hut singing. And they'd sing for an hour and then it'd be time to go to bed. And I thought that was just so cool.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I would actually tag on to the same thing there, man. The singing was awesome. I mean, just the desire that they have for it, the heart for it, and what's kind of crazy is at the end of the day, it's the last thing before bedtime. You end your night with that, and we've just done a bonfire, and we've had s'mores, and everybody's voice is a little tired. They've been talking all day and playing games and hanging out, and but man, they've still got that energy. But for me, one of the cool things that I saw. So we had an older chaperone on this trip. Was Dennis?
Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis
he was awesome.
Dennis killed it.
Dennis had this monstrous beard. It was awesome. And Dennis, he was there with his granddaughter. Do you have more than one grandkid there?
I have
they're
no idea.
from Beltline, so I don't know him as well.
I have no idea.
But Dennis, man, somebody that's got grandkids on a retreat, you expect them to be the person that's like making the coffee in the morning, right? Dennis was up at 1 a.m. playing cards with these middle school boys in the middle of the cabin.
Yeah.
Like I was getting ready to go to bed because, hey, we got to drive the bus home on Sunday, And I'm like getting down into the bed, and Dennis is still like in the heart of playing some Exploding Kittens with these like 7th grade boys, and it was incredible. And so I think stuff like that, like seeing adults step outside of their own normalcy, their responsibilities of, I'm this adult that has to be responsible and take care of all these things, and I'm in charge of things. Well, seeing them let that guard down and just be a kid with these kids and be present with them. I don't know about you guys. That means a lot to me. On adults for trips, yeah, I need somebody to take out trash. I need somebody to, help clean up after the meal, whatever. I get that. But what I really need is adults to be present with the kids and engaging them and building a relationship with them. And Dennis was killing it on that this weekend.
Let's talk about that in the next section,
Yeah.
because that's one of the things that I have like noted that we're going to talk about, because I think it's super important for adults to be involved in the things that are going on, and we'll get into that in a little bit. The most impactful moment for me, man, I'm just gonna be honest. Sam's lesson when he did the little backwards bicycle thing, it just made a profound thing with our kids. I mean, every single day, every time I would go into that main building, it didn't matter what time it was or anything. There was some kid trying to ride the bicycle because they knew that they could,
Give us. Do you care to just say a short?
Yeah,
because nobody has any idea.
I'll give the context.
Totally steal our idea or Sam's idea and use it at your retreat.
Yeah, it was great. So he has this bicycle that when you turn left, the wheel turns right. And when you turn right, the wheel turns left. And it makes everything backwards and it makes everything weird. And we have trained ourselves so many times over and over and over how to ride a bicycle. And you're so involved with knowing how to do that when you try to change one little thing, I mean, it's not, and like mentally, you get it. Like, you know exactly what you need to do, but your body has been trained completely differently. So whenever you start to fall to the right, you want to kind of turn it to the right to kind of catch yourself. But when you try it, you fall even harder, And so that bicycle thing, I mean, every kid they latched onto that, and they tried over and over and over all weekend long, all hours of the day, after meals. One time, even when I was leading one of the discussion groups, a kid just got up and just started trying to do it, and I was like, "Dude, more power to you, man." I mean, it's like, and
he was
so
playing
that was
off of the Romans 12, renewing your mind.
yeah. And I loved that idea. That it takes work, and you have to practice it, and you have to put it into practice over and over and over, and you can't expect these immediate results that you think are going to happen, because they're not. It's something that takes a lot of practice, a lot of time, a lot of effort, intention to make it work. And so the bicycle lesson, the one that he gave, I thought that was really good. Sam did a great job with that.
Yeah, you guys, your lessons were terrible, but Sam's was really, really
That's
good.
right. Jeremy's especially was bad. Okay.
Hey, something that didn't work, the internet died on me.
Oh, yeah, on the first night.
Yeah, no. During my lesson, I tried to play this video from YouTube that's like, it's a super emotional moment about forgiveness. And somehow we've streamed 2 hours of Auburn football before this. Somehow we streamed 2 to 3 hours of Alabama football after this. But in the moment, I could not load this video.
You also loaded the video and played it 3 or 4 times.
Oh, yeah, before
just
the
to
lesson,
make sure that it would work.
But in the moment, nothing.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I was so frustrated.
All right. This question is more for just one person. What did we totally forget, Jeremy?
Jeremy, what did you forget?
What's the one thing that's the most important thing that you forget?
Let me say this. I've done a lot of retreats. The thing that is almost always forgotten for retreats is communion. But listen, I know we're going to do it. I know we're going to have communion. We have communion every Sunday, right? I know that. But at home, at our home congregation, I never prep the communion. That's not something that's in my responsibilities. And so someone else is always doing that. And hey, shout out to the people at Coleman that prep communion who remember it every week, because I don't. And so I just selfishly take it every Sunday. I have it. So, but on retreats, I always forget communion. And they're making fun of me, but you jerks have also, I'm sure, forgotten communion too. Now, I will say this. I had a retreat one time. This is in Tullahoma, where I didn't have the stuff, and we're like in the middle of nowhere. We were at Latimer. I'll talk about it later. But, man, there's nothing. There's nothing anywhere close by. And there's a grocery store, but they don't sell any of like the typical communion prep. You can't get your matzo crackers and your grape juice there.
Dude, we did tortillas one time.
Well, so this lady said, I can bake some unleavened bread if you'd like. And I was like, what? She said, if you can get me this, and this, I can make it. I was like, yes. So we went to the grocery store, and she literally baked the bread for communion.
That's incredible.
And it was
the
awesome.
best bread you've ever had.
Oh, it was
too.
incredible.
Yeah.
Shout out to Janet. Great job, Janet. Incredible servant heart. But she did. She made the bread. But you guys, if you're starting a youth ministry, if you've been in it 20 years, you're going to forget communion, and you're not the only one that did it. And just know it's going to be okay. Somebody's going to have to run to the DG or to the Walmart and find what you need. But always get somebody to remind you, write it down. Have the secretary, Michael and I were talking about this, have the secretary say, hey, stupid, did you get the communion supplies?
Yeah. That's what my secretary does. I've forgotten it. Like I said earlier, I said we use tortillas. It's just the one thing. There's two things that I forget when I go on a retreat. Number one is towels.
Oh,
I always forget. I don't know what it is about towels. I'll bring everything else. I've got backups of everything else, but I forget towel.
I forgot my pillow. This time I
that's
slept
even
on a
worse.
sweater.
There were a handful of people in our cabin that forgot their pillow.
I can't forget
But
pillows.
anytime I go somewhere with a cabin, I forget towels, and I'm a little bougie. I like to have a little bathroom mat that I step on in the mornings.
You're lying to me.
No,
right now.
That's
all
not
the time.
real.
You can go to my house. I have a closet of like 5 or 6 of them. I'll always have it at Maywood.
Okay,
I don't like stepping on that floor. Just
so do you
That's
wear
awesome.
shower shoes? Are you a shower shoe
Please,
boy?
please tell me
No.
your shower shoe.
no, I don't do
Listen,
that.
I'm just gonna be
Mainly
straight
because I
honest
can't
with you.
Are you a
ever
shower boy?
forget
Are you
that.
shower
Hey,
shoes?
hey, I've been to a lot of camps and a lot of retreats and a lot of places. I've never worn shower shoes at any
me
of these
either.
places.
Me
Not
Some
once.
of these are nasty.
And I've never had to
And
athlete's
I know
feet
I
either.
know they're nasty, but I just do it anyway, man. I ain't doing that. I'm not wearing shoes in the shower.
I'm not gonna do that.
It's
That's
disgusting.
Not,
I mean, the listeners are also acting like we would remember to bring shower shoes.
yeah,
that's
that's right. That's right. Okay, let's change gears. What would we do different? Is there anything at this retreat where you're thinking, man, we should have done this differently? Maybe we could have improved this way. What are some things that you do different?
Not let Beltline win Battle of the Youth Groups,
Oh.
preferably.
Gross.
That's why we didn't let Sam be a part of that.
Well, it is a fraternity that only a few people are in, and the Hartsville Youth Group is in that fraternity.
Shut up.
And it feels good to share it, because I wanted to spread some joy, and I told our kids, just go easy on them, let somebody else win. We can't just always be
Yeah,
the
that's it.
winners. And so
I love it. But the kids loved it.
oh yeah,
And it's such a fun event. It's something that's actually fairly super easy to set up. It's a little bit of planning in the beginning, and then each group chooses one kid to represent that youth group. They do some sort of competition, and it can be something as silly as, I think we did some dancing.
Oh, yeah.
And then we did
15
Simon
seconds.
Says, and we did different things, and whoever wins it, they get this little tiny trophy, and it goes back to the youth group, and the youth group
and they
most
wanted those
trophies at the end
trophies.
Oh yeah, those little
10-cent
15-cent trophies.
Yeah. Hey, looking back differently, I probably wouldn't do habaneros for the pepper challenge. We had one that definitely threw up.
Yeah, that
I
was,
don't know if you knew that, but
I knew that.
he went out and puked. I didn't know that till later because I kept running the next game.
Well, it's because they were like, "Oh, this ain't bad. This ain't bad."
And
yeah,
he
this
ate
is
the whole
fine.
thing.
And he ate the whole pepper, and we were like, "You just have to take a small little bite." And he was like, "Oh, this ain't bad." And then before you know it, he's Ralphing everywhere.
Yeah. Great job, Hayden.
Something that I think I would probably do different, and I think it's all like before we got on the trip. I think I should have prepared our adults a little better.
Yeah.
I think that's probably something I could have done. We did have something that was chaotic that happened. One of our chaperones broke her leg while on the retreat, and she was going around in a wheelchair the rest of the retreat. But hey, she was awesome. She was involved. She was
But
doing
didn't
things.
go
She
home,
was
by the
serving.
way.
Didn't go home. Broke her
Stayed
foot.
at
Stayed
the
there.
retreat.
And as soon as we got back from the retreat, she was like, "I need to go to the ER," and she did. And
That's
and they found out. Yeah, she broke her fibula. So
Oh, man.
and was just at the retreat the whole weekend, serving and doing whatever she could. She was a real champ. Did a great job. And so
Let me say this: our adults were really great this weekend.
it's seriously the best I've ever had.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
really.
they were fantastic, and if they listen to this episode, thank you.
Yeah. I have some adults that come on, most trips that I go on, and I mean, hey, I'll just be honest. The adults that I have on at this church where I'm at now,
Yeah.
man, they are
You got some good folks.
great.
They're
Yeah,
killing
they do a
it.
great job.
Killing it.
So let me do can I shift our gears to
Yeah.
out of this retreat? We're going to talk about kind of when we're thinking about and planning retreats while we're on adults. Let me just ask this question: do y'all do any kind of post trip follow up, like thank you gifts or anything like that with volunteers? That's something that I've tried sometimes, even if it's just like writing a handwritten thank you card and shooting it in the mail. we get back from Winterfest, we get back from a mission trip, we get back from retreat, and I say, hey, thank you for what you did with the kitchen or what you did with the cabin or whatever. Thank you for your part in this and serving our youth ministry. Do y'all do anything like that right now?
I do.
Okay.
I have a letterhead, or not a letterhead, but I don't know I guess postcards might be the right term. But I have some postcards that I had made that have like our youth group logo and all that stuff on them. And on the inside it's blank. And I just write, hey, dear Jeremy, thank you for serving in this way. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate the time and effort that you put in. And the kids enjoyed having you there. And I hope you're at the next one because you did such a great job, blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of move it on. But that should be something that I think we could do better at, for sure.
Yeah, I'm a punk now. I don't do that.
Well, and I don't always remember it either. And I asked that to say, are y'all doing that? Because I want to get more. Some of my adults are going to hear this and be like, that jerk didn't send me a card. Well, some trips I have.
Starting now, that's what's happening.
But that kind of volunteer follow-up, man, I mean, feeding your volunteers matters.
Yeah. And us sending a special card to the Beltline cooking crew.
Oh, yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, let's move on. Well, we've kind of analyzed all of the trip that we just went on and got back from. Now, let's kind of shift gears into what we are planning to do in the future, how this retreat kind of prepared us for future retreats. And we'll kind of try and go through this pretty quickly so that we can kind of stay in that same time frame of about 30 minutes, 35 minutes or so. But what are the things that make a retreat successful?
I'll tell you, as funny as it sounds to say, kids love a good shirt and to eat good. Now, I want to have good lessons. I want to have good plans, themes, all that. But if you got a cool shirt and you eat good, kids have a great time.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Who actually remembers what the speaker spoke on from 3-4 years ago? Not many people do, but they do still have the T-shirt.
That's right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, and really joking about that, but they remember the experiences. Sometimes it's the things that you don't plan on a retreat that just kind of happen sporadically. Like the other night, we were sitting around a campfire, and Sam brings out his guitar. I've got a guitar, and we sat around just sang with some kids. And that wasn't something on the plan. It was just us hanging out. But it just turned out to be this cool, memorable thing that I think a lot of those kids would take away from that.
Yeah, I think I whenever I'm planning an event and I have specific goals, and so that's kind of what my whole thing is. What is the purpose of even going on this trip? Is it worth the investment that we're putting in, the time away from their families, the money, and every trip that we go on, I make that analysis. I just say, what is the most that we can get out of this money and this amount of time and all this. And the thing that makes a retreat successful to me is that you see growth by the end of it. You see, even, not every single kid is just going to make this huge leap. But we had a couple kids that were sixth graders. This is their first trip that they have ever been on with the youth group. Yep. And man, they were fired up. Yeah. And when they finished the retreat, I could tell there was something different. And even in class this past Sunday, last night we had Bible class, and man, there was those two kids, those two sixth graders that came. And they were the only ones that were in class, but we had more than just two that went on their retreat. But those two were participating in classes. They were asking questions. They were very involved in the class. They were wanting to be a part of the group. And that was the success story for me, was like, man, those younger kids getting involved and wanting to do more and wanting to be involved. And that just made huge difference to me.
That's the important part for the sixth graders is they get to be around the rest of the youth group, and they get to start growing closer to that youth group, and you see leaps and bounds of growth just from them just being surrounded by other people, and not only that, but being surrounded by 3 other youth groups, including not counting your own. It's very impactful.
Yeah, I think seeing the growth. Sometimes you don't see it grand scale across the whole group. Sometimes you see it with 1 or 2 students, right? And so. I know a couple episodes when Dee's talked about their trip to Uplift this year. It was a great trip. It was a successful trip in a lot of ways, but I think what you might point to as one of your greatest successes was the one girl who came home and made the decision to follow Christ after Uplift. Like, that was worth whatever Uplift cost, and it was a lot.
Oh,
okay?
I would have paid every single penny of my budget.
That one kid having that growth or that change made that trip successful, and I think that happens on retreats too. I think we have we have adults, you know, that go on these things, and sometimes you see them step into a role outside of just a task filler, but all of a sudden someone who's active in ministry to children, to teens. And that's a retreat success, you know, seeing someone take that step into, I'm going to be part of this mission that we're doing in youth ministry. Yeah. Those are cool success moments for me.
And it's cool when you invite somebody that typically wouldn't go, but because you asked them, they feel like they have to go. And then once they see what's being done and what's accomplished, they're bought in, and they're going to be at everything, and they're going to help with everything. I had a couple of guys like that where I was previously. Man, they're still involved. They're still doing things with the youth group, and they're still, and you know, so it's a really cool deal.
A good chaperone goes a long way.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. I say a good chaperone goes a long way. I lost one. Her kid graduated, and she's kind of graduated out of the youth group now, and I missed that, and she was just such a good one that the girls felt comfortable to go talk to, and I think of nights at Exposure Youth Camp where they're up till 2-3 in the morning, just all the girls are just sitting there talking to her, and that was such a good benefit. And now it's, you know, well, who's next to step up, who's going to take that spot, and that means a lot in the youth group.
I had a guy when we were in Tennessee that named Tom, and Tom was one of the best chaperones I've ever seen for trips. Man, he would only go to Winterfest with us. That was the only trip he went on all year. But he would ask me, you know, like 2 weeks before the trip, he was like, hey, who are my 3 guys that are going to be in the hotel with me at Winterfest? And I'd send him, you know, which kids. And he always wanted to be around like in the 8th to 10th grade range, because he wanted to build a relationship for multiple years after that. And so I'd send him the names and their address, and he would send them a card before Winterfest, the week before, and he'd say, hey, just want to let you know my name's Tom. You may not know me, but I'll be with you at Winterfest this year. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. I hope that we get to have some good conversations about Jesus, you know, whatever. And then on the trip, man, he stayed with those guys. He's doing the zip line. He's playing putt-putt. He's doing all the – he sits with them at the convention center. He walks with them in the magic shop. He goes and tastes beef jerky with them in Gatlinburg. You know, all the junk that you do in Gatlinburg. And then, but what was cool was after the trip, when Tom got back, Tom would follow up with these guys. From that trip of Winterfest until that kid graduated, Tom would send that kid cards on their birthday. He'd send them, if they got baptized, he'd send them a card or a note when, you know, anniversary of their baptism. He followed up with this kid, and I had so many guys that when they were a senior graduating and you talked to them about, you know, who had an influence on you, they would always talk about Mr. Tom, you know. That was the only trip he ever went with us, was just Winterfest, but he was incredible, you know, kind of the follow-up after the trip.
Yeah. So what are some things, we're kind of on the subject of volunteers that come to our trips. What are some things that you delegate to a parent or volunteers that come with you? What are some of the things that you do?
For me, it's coffee. For our listeners, they might not know this. I do not drink coffee. I've never had coffee. I don't care for it. But everybody else loves coffee.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be the one that's in charge of coffee if I don't drink it. So, and my parents love it. And there's always at least 1 or 2 adults that are more than happy to take over this coffee experience.
And they don't just want coffee at breakfast. Like, you need somebody that has it on pot all day, ready to, because there's always somebody looking for a cup of coffee.
Yeah. One of the things that I always do is photography. I feel like I can take pretty decent pictures and stuff, but I have so many things going on a retreat, camp, whatever trip we're on. Man, I just can't. I can't think to take pictures, and I'll have a couple, but I always try and find someone and say, "Hey, can you just make sure we get a lot of pictures, and then you can just send them to me after the trip, and we'll put them on Instagram, or we'll send them out, or do whatever we need to do to make sure that."
Do you dedicate a person that's their only job, or do you say, while you're doing other stuff, try to do this?
I have one person who that's their only job, but then I tell people, while you're doing
help
this,
her,
help this person take it, and I have never really been let down. Whenever I tell somebody that's your job, that's what you're good at it. You don't miss an opportunity. And I always find that person and make sure that they're taking pictures and sending them to me. So.
Let me tell you something I think is really important for an adult is games. And what I mean by that is, typically youth ministers, we can come up with dumb, silly games. And we did this weekend, right? Yeah. I did some games. Michael did some games. We ran stuff. We all kind of worked together on this. But, man, we had this one deacon in Tullahoma named Clay, and that was like his blessing in life was that he was the games deacon. Now he did a lot of other things too, but he was just so good at it.
Yeah.
And I would tell him, months in advance where our trip was or our retreat is, and he would come up with games that tied in together. We played like a life-size version of Angry Birds, like with slingshots and dodgeballs.
Dude, I was
and
there.
It was incredible.
there.
It was
Yeah.
incredible. But Clay will be the games angel when we all get to heaven. He'll be the one running the games portion of heaven. But having someone that's dedicated to that and is passionate about that's so when you have it, it's awesome. I don't have someone that wants that all the time every retreat, but when you do, it's incredible.
Yeah. What are some of the responsibilities that we have back home that a lot of times we forget about? Like me, I this is just something I'm good at, I guess. But I almost never forget to get a teacher to back.
Never
if
forget.
I'm gonna miss Sunday, I don't forget to get the class teacher. But I do forget about everything else. And so, but what are some things that you think are very important to make sure that you have covered while you are on a trip or retreat or whatever?
The teacher is important. And not only that, for us at Flint, we also have a co-teacher. And usually when you're gone, the co-teacher teaches, and then they have to find another co-teacher. And I don't want to inconvenience them, so I'll also try and go out and find a co-teacher to fill in for them while they're teaching. And then at home, it's for me, it's the pets. Or I have a dog, a chocolate lab, and she's a sweetheart, but she's 100% of the time. And it gets a lot from my wife sometimes. So I make sure that she's okay with the dog staying. If not, we'll board her, things like that. If my wife's going with me on the trip, which that happened pre-kids, it would be, well, where's the dog going? Who's getting the mail? And we kind of talked about that beforehand as well. And then also just any other office tasks that we might have that needs to get done before Sunday. Just making sure that's done early so we can really focus on the retreat going into the retreat.
Yeah, the thing that I sometimes I'll forget about, like especially if we go away on a mission trip and we're gone for like 4 or 5, 6, 7 days in a row, is things that need to be communicated, especially in the summer, man. I mean, y'all know how it is. You might be on this camp, but you got 2 more coming right after, or you've got this service project coming, 2 days after you get back from the. And so having people communicating things out, or making sure you communicate to the secretary or to the bulletin, print, whatever, the things that are next while you're on the trip. It's so easy to forget the next thing when you're in the moment of the thing.
Yeah. What are some things we're going to kind of go through this list that we kind of just of questions that we kind of just threw out. What are some things on this list here that you'd like to talk about? Let's talk about one more thing each on each of these, and I want to talk about the open free time versus program free time.
Yeah.
When we plan retreats, this is the way that I like to do it. Is I like to have both, which is kind of a weird thing, but there's some kids that are very athletic that they want to have a serious game of whatever, basketball, football, ultimate frisbee, whatever. And so I'll have someone dedicated, a parent or adult or one of the older kids that I put in charge. Hey, this is the person you are going to be taking over and leading this. And then the rest of the people, I just kind of let them do their own thing. A lot of times the unathletic people or the people that don't really care to do athletic things, they would rather play board games, and I'll have that kind of stuff just set up. I won't have any adult over there, but I'll have it set up and ready for them to grab a game, take it to a table, and play. But that's kind of the way that I handle free time with our groups. Every time that we go, we have a couple activities planned that are like, hey, this is what we're going to do. If you would like to, if not, you can go do whatever you want. So
one of the things we did this year with the recent retreat was we had a 5th session. We normally do 4 on a retreat. We had a 5th session. And part of that was to break up that long afternoon free time, because it's just.
I thought that was so good.
long.
That was so good.
They came back together. We had a short little devotional, had a discussion group, and then went back to free time.
Yep.
But it kind of broke that long open time up.
Well, and I had some kids ask me about that, actually, of why did we have a session right in the middle of free time? And I got to sit there and explain, while we're at Maywood, we do have that long free time, but we're there all week. And then we're at a retreat, and we're out there Friday night, all day Saturday, Sunday morning. So why not get the most out of it? And something, too, that we really didn't mention, or we might have mentioned in a previous podcast, but we took phones up. Mm-hmm. We told them to keep them in their cabins, and that was awesome. I absolutely love that. The kids love that. Nobody argued that situation. And during our free time, that was an opportunity for them to go back to their cabins, check their phones, get on social media, whatever they needed to do. But then we also broke it up to where they kind of had to come back outside at some point, too.
Right.
And it was just such a cool cool situation to be in.
Did we have complete compliance? No, but
I thought we did.
it was a lot better than if we hadn't said anything.
Yeah, I thought it was the best way to do what we did.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. I didn't have anybody really complain.
We weren't overbearing on them. We didn't harp on it. We just said, we're setting an expectation for you, and they pretty much lived up to that.
Yeah, I think I had one kid that he just forgot. That's what dude, I'm sorry. I just forgot,
When the football games came on, a lot of them wanted to watch it in separate places and things like that. So they started pulling them out, or the Tennessee fans didn't want to watch it with the Alabama fans.
Yeah.
They separated,
Yeah.
And I get that, and that's part of it. But our goal for that was to kind of separate them from their phone, get that phone anxiety away from them, and let them enjoy the weekend.
All right. So Jeremy, what's something that you wanted to pick out from there?
So Hunter touched on this earlier, but splitting teams up or splitting groups up. On retreats, I typically have like when we do our own retreats, when it's not a combined, just ours. I'll split the kids all up into groupings of teams, and a lot of times those will be your discussion groups and your games group. I try to do those differently depending on what's going on. So like sometimes I'm splitting those by skills and athleticism. Like if I recognize we're playing games that do depend upon some level of athleticism, I'm going to make sure I don't put all my 11th and 12th grade boys that are 6'2" together on a team and put them opposing 7th grade girls. I'm trying to spread that out evenly. The other thing is I try my best to pair a kid with a friend that they are comfortable with, but I don't give them their whole friend group. I try to intentionally split their friend groups up. And so when they listen to this, they're all going to be mad at me, but it's intentional. I'm trying to ruin your life. And so this idea of making you build connection with someone you don't already deeply know is a big deal to me. Splitting sometimes by gender, splitting your guys and girls and letting them have some more of those conversations that maybe we don't get to have on Wednesday night Bible class, or we don't get to have Sunday during lunch, but you sit in a cabin with a bunch of guys and you have conversations about the things that really guys need to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And then age, if it's not things that depend upon competition or athleticism like games, I try to split by age and let those high schoolers have some conversations that they might not get to have with the 6th or 7th graders in the room. So those are some of the things, thinking ahead of how I'm going to sort these kids depending on what the event is. Don't just haphazardly throw all the names in a list and draw them out of a hat, but be intentional about what person goes where.
Yeah. One of the things that I do, because I used to just divide people out, and I was like, okay, and I would always have like a kid be like, I don't know anybody in my group, I don't know what, and I'm like, we'll get to know them better.
That's the point of the retreat.
And so they would, but to avoid that, I always just say, hey, everybody, find a buddy.
Yep.
You can find one person. We're not doing 3 people, just one buddy. That way they have somebody they're comfortable with, and then they go in, and they're not going to just spend time with that one person. They're going to have to intermingle and everything. But it gets rid of that anxiety that's right there at the top. So, all right, Hunter, what's something that you want to talk about?
The retreat facility. I really enjoyed ICYC, and for the listeners that don't know us, we're week 0 of Maywood for our normal summer retreat or our summer camp. And I like not going back to Maywood, though I love Maywood and I love Jeff. Shout out Jeff Goff.
Maywood camp's the best.
But I like separating that Maywood and this fall retreat idea of being somewhere else, getting them out of their comfort zone a little bit. ICYC had bathhouses. Yeah. And a lot of our kids aren't used to that. A lot of them have never seen a bathhouse and don't understand that whole concept.
Maywood's gotten too bougie for the bathhouse.
That's right.
But it's just something that really gets them out of their comfort zone, gets them in somewhere different, and also kind of makes them focus a little bit more as well.
Jeremy, you tell us about the retreat center that you have written down here, because I've been there and it is the best that I have ever been to, far and away, and it's all because Jeremy told me about it.
Yeah, man. So and I haven't been to it in forever because I moved here 8 years ago and it's just too far for us now. But Latimer Boy Scouts of America, it's the Latimer Reservation. Is it Spencer, Tennessee? I think.
Spencer, yeah.
And man, it's just acres upon acres of land, this beautiful lake, these incredible facilities, nice cabins. They've got mountain bikes that the kids can take. It's all included. They've got canoes and kayaks the kids can go out on. All that's included. They cook your meals for you. You give them your number and they literally prep. Like we didn't even have to take a food team.
Or snacks.
And
I mean, it's,
and the honestly the cost was negligible. I mean, it wasn't that much more than anywhere else we typically use. The the incredible thing about this place is every bit of it is paid off. I think they're debt free, and so they, instead of charging this premium price to pay for their facilities, they're really trying to bless groups by letting them come at a reasonable cost. And it had rappelling was one of the things you could do there, and
it's a little extra cost, but it's not that much extra. I mean,
and that's something. If we could, towards the end here, I would like to ask y'all to share maybe one of your favorite memories that you've had from any retreat in the past. Do you want to go there now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll tell you, because we're on Latimer and we're talking about that and rappelling. One of the most incredible, beautiful moments I've ever seen at a retreat. I'm not going to say her name, but we had this girl that we were working with, serving in what would be more of an impoverished community. She had a kind of a broken home family situation, just a lot of challenges for her, a lot of trauma in her life. And we had been building a relationship, building connection with this girl, and she finally, came on a retreat with us. And so on this trip, we were taking that group, her age group was going to get the chance to go rappelling. And she had signed up to go rappelling. And if you've never rappelled, I don't know if you guys either one rappelled.
I have. It's terrifying.
It is terrifying. You literally have to put your weight back on the rope and trust the rope to not let you die.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it.
It is.
I mean, it's so fun.
It's really cool.
Don't get me wrong.
But it's so hard.
But that first where you're literally jumping off the side of a mountain.
Yeah. And so, or like holding to the side of the mountain and scraping your face all the way down because you can't let go and relax, which is what a lot of them do.
Uh-huh.
I did that the first time. So, it's hard. But this girl, she gets out there and she's like, I'm going to do this. And she's one of these girls that like acts tough and acts like she's not scared and all this. She came from a pretty hard life. And so she gets up there on the side of the mountain on this cliff and she looks down, man, and she can't do it. I mean, she's like, I just can't do that. I can't. And what's crazy is, a lot of these kids that are on the retreat, mom and dad might be there at the retreat as a chaperone, or this girl's got nobody. She's there because we pick her up on a bus every Wednesday and we bring her to class. That's how she's made connections with anybody in our church. So she has nobody that's building that in her heart and is saying, you can do this, you can do this. And we had one of our youth deacons and his wife got down on her level, and she's on the side of the mountain, and they like are having this heartfelt, beautiful moment of, you can do this. We're here with you. We'll go down beside you. You're going to be. And man, it took like 30 minutes to get this girl to go over the edge. Like multiple people go before her, and she finally goes over the edge, and she gets to the bottom, and it's like she has conquered this incredible fear in her life, and it's because these adults that poured their heart into this kid and said, "We're going to walk with you through this." And it was awesome. It was one of the coolest retreat moments that I've ever had.
All right, Hunter, what's one of the most impactful retreat moments that you can remember?
I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but we were at Nayati one year. I think it was a fall retreat or an early spring retreat, and it started snowing.
Oh, yeah.
And for those that don't know where Nayati is, it's on Lake Guntersville.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely beautiful. But we also did get stuck for a little while until the snow melted. But it was such a beautiful retreat. I mean, the kids were enjoying it. They were out playing in the snow, and you're able to sit there and look over the water as the snow's falling. And it was just a great time. And it's something that those kids that were on that retreat, I mean, they'll never forget that, of waking up that morning and seeing snow fall and us having a couple of inches of snow.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah. Probably the one that kind of stands out to me was actually at Latimer, one of my first times there. We had a kid who, man, he was just going through some stuff. We won't get into many details. And I just went to him and I was like, hey, is everything all right? I've kind of just noticed you've been off a little bit this weekend. And he was like, can we go outside and talk? And I was like, yeah. And so we went outside, and I bet we walked 10 miles. I mean, we started this. It was probably like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and when we got back in, it was almost 4 a.m., and we just walked. I mean, and we just talked and discussed things that were going on. He just had a lot of tough things going on, and after that retreat, he got really involved in our youth ministry events and all the things that we were doing, and it was just a really cool moment that I got to share with him. And I still check in with him, every now and then. I sent him a graduation card not long ago, and still text him every now and then, just check in, see how he's doing. But yeah, that was a huge thing that just was a random retreat moment that wasn't planned. It wasn't anything and I think that's a good way to kind of close this out is we can talk about this all day long and we can plan all this stuff and we can get all this stuff and we know all the things that we're going to be doing and everything, but it doesn't all work out the way that we expect it to. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. And so the one thing that about retreats is to always be willing to kind of take what's going on. Something unexpected happens. Well, let's join in and try to improve that situation. Or something bad has happened, so let's handle the situation. We had a girl that at one of the retreats I had just fell and she tore her leg open and she was like, "Michael, do you think I need stitches?" And I walked over and I said, "Yeah, you need stitches." And she was like, "Should we call 911?" I was like, "No, I'll just take you to the hospital." And so she did. She got stitches. And so things like that are going to happen. No matter how much planning we put in, no matter what we do, just be prepared for it. Just know that things like that are going to happen and be prepared for it. And so I wanted to close us out with that. Jeremy, you have anything else you want to say? Hunter, got anything else you want to say?
No, man, I think it was good.
It was a great retreat. Really enjoyed it. Kids
Sam,
loved it.
Sam,
looking
we
forward
missed
to
you.
it next year.
Yeah, we miss you, Sam. We love you. Well, that'll be the end of this show this week, and we're just really glad that you are listening. Make sure to like it wherever you're listening to it. Make sure to leave a comment. We might even, you start putting some comments on there. We might even start saying some of the comments that are being left on the podcast page. And so, anyways, make sure to like and subscribe and follow and all that stuff. And the reason we're doing this is to make sure that you're blessed, and we that's the whole reason we want to do this. We want to be helpful. We want to help people, and we hope that this podcast is doing that for you. So we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks for joining us today in the important conversation of youth ministry. Go and follow us on Instagram and check out oksyouthministry.com for more information about our upcoming episodes. We'll be dropping a new episode every Wednesday morning, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. And hey, it's okay to be the OKS Youth Minister around, but let's all strive to be just a little bit better.
Once again, we would like to thank the M2Y Conference for sponsoring this episode. We can't wait to see everyone at Heritage Christian University, November 7th through the 10th. Don't forget to stop by our booth and grab a sticker.